I'm going to create myself a focus and light helper. I'm going to do that at the position of my figure, and it's going to be an empty object that I'll use for that. So if I bring in any object, empty, cube, light, whatever, it comes in wherever my 3D cursor is, which is way over here, and I need my objects to come in sort of here. They don't have to be exactly there, but I want to move my cursor basically. The way to do that is to switch over to this little tool here, cursor, and then I can left click where I want my objects to come in. So this is a good position for that. And now go and say Shift A. Nope, I'm still in pose mode, that's why that doesn't work. So object mode, let's go Shift A and bring in an empty. That's just, we can do 3 arrows, we can do single arrow, it doesn't really matter. It's not gonna show up, it's just gonna be an empty object that we can point other things at. And I'm gonna, the pivot point of this, I'm gonna put somewhere around here. So either to her face, to her chest, something like that. So GZ, move that up. 7 on the numpad will show you the whole scene from the top. So G will go and be able to put this into somewhere where the eyes are, because that's usually where we have the focus, and then we're going to put it slightly further down so that it's in chest height, and that's a good position for that. The reason why I'm doing that is because now I'm going to go and position a couple of lights that will brighten her up. One so that we can see her, so one's our key light as I've explained before, and one's going to be, 2 might be our rim light, and then we're probably going to have a fill light. So we're going to have either 2 or 3 or 4 light sources for that. We can do that with spotlights here. Create a spotlight and then move that over here. We would have a hard time rotating it so that it points directly to that empty. Blender has a handy little function that we can use for that in this little helpful icon called the constraints tab. And light objects in particular, they can get these constraints. We're going to need a track to constraint, and that will let me pick an object to which this thing is going to point. So it's a bit like the point at constraint in DAZ Studio. That's basically what this is. So we haven't named it, so I'm going to go and search for empty. I should really name it in a second. There we go. And now my light points directly at where the empty object is. So if I go and move it, you can see that the light is moving as well, and that's exactly what I want. So if I do change this later, or if I go and add other light sources, they're all just going to go and point at this thing. So if I go and grab my light now and move it around, you can see that it always goes and points at this. So this is pretty much exactly what I want. Then we can have a look what the effect of this is on my object. And let's tidy some of this up. So all of this came in through the GIL import. So I'm going to put that into GIL post here so that it's all out of the way. The empty I'm going to call focus helper. And then we have the first spotlight, which let's call that the key light. And then we're going to go and Shift D to duplicate that, and G Shift Z to move that around, because we'll probably need to go and brighten her up from these 2 sides. I'm thinking one from here, one from there. Maybe make that a little bit more visible here. One from here, one from there. And then we're probably going to need at least 1, maybe even 2 from the back, just to give her a little bit of a backlight. So let's go and duplicate that again. Shift D, enter. G Shift Z to move that to somewhere around the back. And the cool thing is, as I do that, the lights all point to this one helper object here. So I'll call this one the backlight for now, because I don't know what this is all going to be set up as, but we'll find out. Press 0 on the numpad, and that looks pretty strange here. That's Alt Z to see the X-ray mode. Let's go and switch this to viewport shading and see what the lights bring to the table, and then we're going to go and make some adjustments here. So our first 2 key lights, they don't seem to do much of anything. So let's have a look how we can increase that. So first of all, the radius. 0 means a point light. We probably don't want that, so 0.5 is a good start. And the power, let's start with 200, and there we're going to see our character being brightened up here. 200 is probably too much, so let's do 100, and that's not bad. It comes slightly from the wrong direction. Even though it looks nice and moody, I would probably like to move that around. We'll do that in a second. Let's go do the same thing on the second key light that we have here. That's just going to be a fill light technically. So fill light, and let's make that also 200 maybe. That's too much, isn't it? So 100, and then the radius, make that sort of 0.5 as well. Makes it a bit friendlier. So this is making our character show up and actually readable. That's nice. And now all we need is something else from the back so that we can see that she's actually a 3D shape. So that is what the backlight is responsible for. That's probably also in the wrong position. Surely it should be sort of behind the camera, but we'll see where we're going to put it. So that's probably going to be a bit stronger. 200 is good. Look at that. I can see that outline here coming in already. So that's pretty cool. So that's what we want. With slightly larger light, we're going to get a little bit more of that and a little bit less harsh shadows. So I'd like to have this effect, this little white outline here on the other side of my character as well, which is why I'm going to use that light again. Just something I'm seeing here, there's a lot of grain that I see in the render, and on the render tab, I can either go and denoise this. That'll make it look less grainy and a little bit nicer, but there's also the noise threshold here. I think the final render puts this at 0.01 and the noise threshold here is 0.1. So I'm going to go and put that to 0.01 as well, and that'll probably help me see a bit more detail there. So very cool. Let's go and duplicate this light and put it over on the other side. You can go and make yourself a second viewport, of course. Shift D, G, Shift Z, and move that sort of here. And that's probably the best way to judge what happens when you do what with what light, if you know what I mean. So let's in fact do that. I'll go and drag this down, and this viewport on the bottom here, that's going to be my camera, my rendered view, whereas this one at the top here, that's going to be just my moving around view here. So let's just watch the outsides of Claire's body here as I go and fiddle around. So one was that this light here, I'm going to go and move around just so that you can see the difference it means. So G, Shift Z, I'm going to stay in this plane, and you can just about see on her pants, if I go and move the light further forward to that direction, you can see more of that outline. And when you move it behind her, you see less of that. You see that this is coming in, this is going more, this is now basically from the front. This is not what we want because that's washing her out, but we want to do something like this so that there's this separation. And the same holds true for the other backlight, which is this one, that we want to have a similar sort of effect here at the bottom now. Let's see how we can make that happen. So G, Shift Z, and as we move this around, eventually we'll see that. See that? Perfect. And now she actually stands out from the background. Otherwise, that would just be black. And this might be a little too harsh here, so I might go and move that lower to 100 so that we should see the bit of a hint there. You can also make that a bit higher and see what the effect of that is. Same with the other backlight here. GZ, make that a bit higher. Nope, look at that. Higher takes too much of the effect away, and I don't think I want that. I think I'm good with that. So this is perfect. Let's go worry about the actual key light here, because I think that's a little washed out. So these two key lights here, I think it's good for her to have one from one side. Let me go and switch one off. So this makes it a bit more moody here, but I think she does deserve a little bit of fill light here so that we see more on this part of the face. I just think that's 100 watts is a bit too much. So let's try 50, or maybe even less than that, 25. And I think that's a good amount of fill. And the other light here, the other key light that we had, that we've actually called the fill light, they're technically named the wrong way around. What happens when we go and switch that off? Yeah, this is actually has become our key light. Sorry about that. I should have renamed those things. So let me go and name that key light, like, you know, for real. And this one is going to be the fill light there. Okay, so now we sort of got it. And that is how we make our character look nice in this scene.